I mean, like, I don't really sort of pay that much attention. I suppose if people want to criticize it that way, then that's totally fine. It's sort of people are going to get out of it as much as they watch and as much as they kind of think of it, I suppose. But it's like, I don't know.
Well, I don't mean it in the sense that you're taking the piss or anything. I mean, like, your place in battle rap, as in, like, you've cultivated Marlowe. Marlowe is a unique performer, and he has his place in battle rap. How do you feel about him as a character?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, character is the right word. I think all battle rappers, have to have some character and have just by nature in some cases, they are a character. I'm sort of loath to do the comparison to wrestling, but that is sort of the deepest one you can do with the character and
an extension of the real person.
Exactly, it's an extension of a person, just kind of like that you bring kind of into the performance. I think we've done, I think that we always try. I'm talking about myself and Shuffle now in a sort of 2-on-2 sense, but this obviously extends to solo performances as well. Is like I'm always trying to bring a mix of everything. My favorite battlers always bring a mix of comedy, performance, maybe some antics. And then but like they're gonna rap as well, and they're gonna like actually take that side of it seriously. But I would like to think, and I hope that people get a kick out of it this way as well, is that we're trying to respect the whole process of we're trying to respect the culture as much as possible, even in the comedic bits, because we're trying to just elevate it a little bit more or not even more, but just like into a slightly different direction, whilst maintaining the writing and the technical kind of side of it as well, especially like as we've gone along. Like the earlier battles, maybe you could argue that a little bit less for we're being a bit looser with our writing than we would hold to the standard now, but it's the more battles we do, the more we realize, or that I certainly realize, that I want to like improve the writing every single time and make it as natural to speech and conversation as possible in the wording, even if it's like a stupid or comedic idea. So an example in the Quill battle, which was the most recent one, was I was sort of saying he had a vibe of a toy boy, and saying like he finds a woman over the age of 66 and works his magic. He gives them back rubs, they pay him back in mints and Bertie Bassett's. Quill looks like he lives off the fortune he got in the will of his richest girlfriend, Agnes, who tragically turned up murdered in suspicious circumstances. And that the idea of that is to like the idea of it, obviously the idea of it is obvious. What I mean is the writing in that I was happy with, because nothing is out of place. I'm not speaking in a way that I wouldn't speak in real life, and I think that's quite key to even when you're doing really silly ideas like that, maintaining a certain level of. I mean, it took a long time to get the wording right, and write it like that, and that's how it should be, I think, for any performer in it. If you're just rushing and rushing your setups, especially because everyone writes to a punchline, they write to the fourth line, the second line, whatever, but if you're then rushing the setups, which is absolutely what I used to do and probably still do. I mean, you might, people might watch it now and just say, like, that's, you could definitely, like, that's not how I'd speak, or that's not, and you still take liberties now and creatively, but just as much as possible in the writing process, trying to eliminate that and write succinctly.
But that's an evolution of you as a performer, isn't it? You deciding what you want to do versus what works. Like, I'm put in mind of the Cracker battle. Like, your first round in that battle was absolutely brilliant, but then in the second round, I think you did get a little bit caught up in delivery, and it was that thing that over time you've learned, again, what not to experience. They say teaches you what not to do.
Yep.
And over time, you start to cultivate this more of a persona that, again, the only valid criticism against the idea that it's, you're just parodying it or you're just whatever, right, is the same that every generation has with a new interpretation of an existing art form. You're not doing it properly. And you go, well, no, I'm just interpreting it and using it a different way, just like you did. And
exactly.
That's why I asked you about how you feel about your legacy, because your legacy is unique in that I don't care, and this goes for Shuffle as well. I don't care what the perception of who's the hardest battler. There are people that would pay to see Marlowe face off against anybody because they know it's going to be a great performance. It's going to be funny and entertaining and witty and clever and memorable. I don't know if a lot of battlers necessarily go into it with a mindset of that. They go into it with a mindset of, I have to win, or I have to seem lyrically superior or anything. You have that audience versus performers mindset. You've got the ability to be able to switch between the two in order to maximize the payoff.
Well, I don't think that's unique to us. It's definitely, there are certainly, I'm sure, battlers who, winning will definitely mean a lot more than winning the judge's decision. I mean, than it would to me, because my thing is like is putting on the best show for the crowd. That's
you're like
in my head, and I've won.
The belt. You can go into any fight and people will pay to see the fight, whereas there are guys who you want to chart their success. Their success is their success. They have to keep winning in order to be successful, whereas you can take losses here or there, but people will still go, but that was great. I can't wait to see him do it again. And
I think that's natural. That's just the natural progression of this culture, of this scene in general. Do you know what I mean? Because I think, like, if you take it back to the days of just kind of freestyle on a beat, WRCs, pre-WRCs, it's like then it's kind of coming up with the best punchlines on the spot, over a beat, which is just an entirely not totally different, but different, wildly different in a lot of ways, skill set and an art form, and it's evolved from that. So it's going to cling on to this idea of like kind of competitiveness. There should be competitiveness, and I think it's very good to have that in the scene. But promo battles started becoming a thing, was like 10 years ago, and that's sort of snowballed, I suppose, ever since, because the audience don't mind, like you say, they're not that bothered either way, with the way that the format has actually developed to a cappella, to you can have months of prep time writing your best 3 rounds, and well, at least the kind of the seasoned audience, because there are some audiences that still come into battle rap now, and it's actually it sort of it hits them like a ton of bricks. Like, wait a second, this isn't 8 Mile. This isn't, I don't understand. They're like, how can? But then also, like, it's the strangest thing that still happens today, which is that people think that we're improvising it on the spot still.
Sorry. It's sorry, there's 2 things you just said there. Number one, a person walking go, hang on, this isn't 8 Mile. I was distinctly like that's hilarious. Secondly, the idea that it's hang on a second, and it's like, oh, sorry, just one other quick thing while I've got you. Santa isn't real, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
That's mad.
It's an odd thing, but it does still exist. That's true.
No, I kind of, it's this, and again, the wrestling example springs to mind immediately, right? The idea, it's still real to me, but it's strange because it's like, I mean, literally, only the other day had an example of this. We had, a friend staying with us who doesn't really watch my battles, but we were talking about it a bit, and she'd seen, a couple of clips. I think she'd seen a battle as well back in, 10 years ago or something like that, a few battles. So she's not, she doesn't really know or inside it, but she was absolutely mind blown when she found out that I wrote it, and like, not in a good way. She was. So you're saying you don't come up with that on the spot? And I said, what, you mean the bit where we're in perfect sync doing 7-syllable rhymes? We're not coming up with on the spot, doing exactly the same action? mirrored to each other, and she was like, oh yeah, I was thinking that would be hard to reconcile, just like that would be hard to just kind of improvise and put on, but I just thought that was amazing. How did you guys, you're just so in sync, you know? And I'm like, what? I mean, it doesn't, it's not, that's not a difficult thing to just surmise. That it's written. I mean, it's like, even if you didn't know, you could just easily surmise it. But then those are the kind of people then who, like, you know, stumble on one of these videos on TikTok or whatever. They're not battle rap fans, but they just say, oh, it's written. Scribble, like, you know, using that thing as if it's like a as if it's like a bad thing or is detriment. Anyway, bit of a tangent there, but
it's
yes,
an important tangent, by the way. We'll come back to it in a second, but why it's important. But sorry,
but that's why. I mean, it's sorry, I went off the rails there a bit.
Well, no, I'll bring it back and give you some more credibility, because here's the thing with that statement, and it's the same thing that's leveled against professional wrestling, which is it's fake, quote unquote. And you go, okay, can I ask you a question? Do the hundreds of thousands of reps that they do in practice before matches count as work?
Yeah, of course.
I think they do.
Yeah.
If battle rappers spend 3 months agonizing over every, not word, syllable of a line to maximize its potential, memorize it in such a way that it can be delivered in an organic and direct way, should that still not count? Because here's the thing, turning up and doing something off the top, maybe it might seem on the surface more impressive. The amount of work that goes into doing that is infinitely more impressive, because it's the same thing a lot of people say about bodybuilding or any talent. Oh, I could do that. No, you couldn't, because you need to do it over a period of time, and that consistency and persistence, not everyone has it. Not everyone has it, and that's so critical to people's success. Luck isn't necessarily this benign, omnipresent thing. It's usually a combination of good timing, but persistence to be in the right place at the right time to make the most and maximize your opportunities. And you're a good example of that, because again, these battles, in the first place, you happen to be at the right place in the right time in certain instances, but you've also done a lot of work in the scene, and that's cultivated this following that's not a mistake. And so when people say, oh, so you didn't make it all up on the spot, I'm like, that's even more impressive for me, because that shows that there's a dedication to the art form that not everyone can really fathom.
But it's so funny, because it's just people's own biases being sort of shattered, or at least their own immediate, you know, idea about the world. It is that kind of thing where it's, you know, like childhood ruined, like, you know, because they've just got it so ingrained in their head that the impressive element of this is that they're coming up with this intricacy, which, to be honest, I think if they're thinking that way, they're not, I don't want to, you know, make assumptions here, but they're not really recognizing the intricacy of the writing itself. I think they are just probably only hearing the last syllable rhyming. I mean, I don't know how, but, like, you know, they're not hearing, you know, they might hear, like, if we had Back to the Future and laptop computer, they'd only hear computer. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, or, you know, whatever. Anyway, it's tough to it's tough to sort of know what goes through the head if they're thinking that it's, you know, all. But
could it also be that they don't want to glean more? Like, it could just be that there is, I mean, and I'm not speaking down to this audience, but an audience that genuinely doesn't want to be challenged now, that perhaps didn't exist before, where it's, listen, man, I get it, but can we get to the punchline? You go, no, trust me, just go on this journey with me, you'll enjoy it. I think I'm bored.
But that's the great thing about it. I mean, honestly, that's the great thing about it, is you can just, there is something for everyone in battle rap. As much as corny as that sounds, like, it's like you have an audience for literally everything. We have an audience for us battling a can of Fanta and a stick. It might be a small one, but there are the fans of that out there, and it's funny, and, you know, we're in a kind of like mini cult within a subculture thing. But you know, there is an audience for everything with the battle rap stuff, for sure.